Good evening, and welcome to Riderpiece Theater. Me, Alistair Dayhawk, and tonight, me proud to present Kamen Rider Gacha Episode 30, How to Make Kudo Jealous, which failed, by the way. And I'll tell you why, of course, with reason. Well, guys, we hit number 30. We're in our halfway point. And we don't have our big baddie just yet, which I assume is going to be the members of the Alchemy Association. Fuga is nowhere to be found. It's just right now, for the first 4 episodes, it's going to be nothing but filler. So hopefully by the end of the next episode, we get to see some things moving. But now we hit number 30, hitting into our 40s, and yeah, let's see how this goes, because this episode, man, Kudo is not giving me the emotions that I need for this episode, because these 2 episodes are dedicated to Kudo, because the writers from Gacha are pushing this narrative. They're doubling down that they want her and Hotaro to be together by the end of the final episode. So they're going to have an Aang Katara moment. Of course, the idea of Fuga being both the father, it's not going to work, because it's going to throw the idea away. The idea of half siblings, it's not going to happen, obviously. It's too dark for even this show. So obviously it's not going to happen, because again, if they want to bring both Kudo and Hotaro together and have a relationship dating wise, Fuga being the father cannot happen, obviously. But the actress, this is just me. I'm hoping in the comments below you guys will comment on the performance of Kudo, because for me, she wasn't bringing her A game. She was as wooden as ever. Sure, there were moments where, yeah, I could feel it, but it's just her facial expressions, and she's giving me the vibe that, hey, she's not giving me, are you bothered by this? Are you feeling a certain way? What is it? Because you're too wooden for me. So just please write in the comments below for, if you guys feel the same way, or is it just me? But I'm getting too ahead of myself here. So let us begin this story of trying to make Kudo jealous. So the story begins with Hotaro. He is excited that, hey, I'm a senior now. And I'm like, really? Because I assumed that you were either a freshman or a sophomore the way that you're acting. Because you're still acting like a child. But, yeah, I know. It's Hotaro's cringy character. I get it. But it's just, I have yet to see a senior act the way Hotaro does. Because if that were to happen, I already imagine that person being stuffed into lockers every single time. Anyways, so cringy Hotaro is happy that he's a senior now, and apparently Kudo and his best friend are also in the same classroom together, so that's good to know. And then here comes Midoro Sensei. Apparently he is also a teacher for the seniors, and I'm like, okay, both schools can only afford Midoro Sensei. Where are the other teachers? At least I will give Midoro Sensei credit, though. At least he looks cleaner a bit, and he looks like he's awake. Because if you remember from the pilot, he looked like he was living on the streets, and he was half dead, asleep, and remember, he was demanding Hotaro, hey, you need to finish your paper on what your career choice is going to be and all that stuff. But it's either here or there. At least he's cleaner now. And he announces to his class that, hey, we have a transferred student. And lo and behold, it's Hotaro's childhood friend named Sena. I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing her name right, but You know me. I tend to butcher Japanese names. And Hotaro was in shock, like, hey, like, I haven't seen you since we were kids. What's up? And then Senna was like, hey, do you remember me? Yeah. And, it's been a long time and it's fate, And you see Senna holding Hotaro's hands together as they were like a couple or something. And then Kudo, okay, number one, she just sat there and just like, she has this wooden face. She doesn't look puzzled or bothered or anything like that. She just stood there with her wooden face and didn't really react. So that's case number one. So we move on from case number one to the scene after the opening credits, right? So we have a rare scene between best friends. Kaijiki give us an update about, okay, is he and Haijiri together? And they're still together. They're in contact with each other, and he is in love with her. You can tell. And he turns around and asks his best friend, like, hey, have you ever experienced love before? And I'm like, this is me. Like, does Hotaro even want to be in love with someone? Because right now, currently, he's in love with the idea of hunting down chemies, being with his chemies because he acts like a mom, and just doing alchemy and all that stuff. Does he have time to be in love with somebody? Not really, especially when you're out there trying to save the world. So, yeah, he has no time, but the boys having a conversation about love and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden the girls, Kudo and Senna, show up at the same time, and Kudo just stood there because she is staring at Senna, and Senna just like runs towards the boys and just wondering, hey, what are you guys talking about? And they include her in the conversation, and Kudo is case number two. She just stood there with her wooden face, being all sad, and she didn't do anything. She just stood there. So there's case number two. So after Kudo gets sad, and my case of number two, we move to Weird Sister number one, who has been played by 9-year-old, and she and some couple of talking dolls are pretty much reliving the master's defeat. And number one says, you know what, we're gonna avenge our master, and I'm gonna fuse you dolls together into one being, which she does using the gold Rubik's Cube. So the amalgam is yet to be completed. So they both declare revenge. We move on to the high school that never was, where apparently it's club day, and we get a special cameo from the Donbrothers. We have the Pink Ranger, and I forgot who the other one was, but they both make an appearance, and you can tell by the costumes with the for the bird, it looked like a flamingo, and then the other guy was holding a spear. So you can tell there's like a lot of references from their old show, and they were promoting their comedy club. They were doing a skit together, and all the while you see Kudo and Hotaro just laughing, and Hopper one, it just pop out of nowhere, and Hotaro does this thing, miming with the toy, and just like, no, like, I understand that's funny, but you can't be out here because, if someone spots you, then that's it. I have to erase their memory. So we have the moment with them, and you see Senna in the background looking at them a bit, and then we move on to this kid who is trying to promote his club, which is the drama club, and instead of actually promoting his club, he just goes on his knees and begs the students that, hey, can you please, join my club, please? And it just and turned into a mess because you have some students laughing at him, other students are like turning their heads at each other and be like, what the hell is going on here? Like this is like a desperate moment, and you see Hotaro and Kudo just, oh my god. And and as they are looking on to this begging fest, Sena still stares at them with this hideous look on her face. Because she had the look of envy in her face. You can tell. At least she is giving out emotion and facial reactions, unlike Wood and Kudo. So, speaking of Wood and Kudo, we move to the drama club room where Kudo, Hotaro, and Kaijiki meet with the boy named Miku. I'm just going to name him Miku because I cannot pronounce his full name. And we get to know him, and he wants to bring Romeo and Juliet to his school. Why? Because apparently when he was in middle school, he saw the show, and it inspired him to not only to become an actor, but he wants to bring the show to the school, his high school. Unfortunately for him, he's the only one, and all the other members have left, so he needs 5 members in order to do the show, but also to save the club, because if he's the only one and there's no other members, the school will have no choice but to discontinue drama club. And cringy Hotaro comes out to play, as he always does, and he's like, so that's your gotcha. You know what? I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help you succeed on your succeed with your dream, and I will help you find your members. And luckily for Kudo, she doesn't need to be dragged, because this time Hotaro does not drag her into the message. She's just like, okay, I'm gonna help you. I'm interested. Then Kaijiki also gets involved as well. So they get excited, and Miku decides like, hey, thank you so much, and I will give you Romeo. So after that mini speech, and Hotaro, he tends to overact so much. And this time, he's happy to hear Miku's kacha, and he's like he's jumping with joy, and his face reaction was like, I'm so happy that you told me this. Like, he was about to have tears of joy for whatever reason. He's over the top. And so Hotaro gets the role of Romeo, which he was not expecting, but he was like, oh, okay, sure, I will help you, and I'll be Romeo for you. That's fine. Even though it makes more sense for Miku to be Romeo, because he has this dream, right? To be a part of the show, right? Why not just... But I don't know. This is Hotaro's show now. And lo and behold, Sena... Like, she has this thing where she is at the right place at the right time. She just bursts into the club room, and she's like, hey, I will be your Juliet. Because earlier on, just like a tad second ago, was like, okay, so we have our Romeo, so who is going to be our Juliet? Is it Kudo? And Kudo was like, she was unsure, but then before she get a word in, then here comes Sena, and she's like, I will be your Juliet. And this is where poor Hotaro is stuck between a triangle between Sena wanted to be Juliet, and then you have, for whatever reason, Kaijiki wants to be Juliet. So, yeah, I know. So poor Hotaro in this situation, he is stuck between 2 Juliets, and then you have Kudo again, just stood there, motionless, wooden as ever, and she doesn't, like, I get this expression, this thing where it's like, do you, like, get easily bothered. You don't get easily bothered because I'm not getting that from you. Like, I didn't even get like a nervous laugh out of you. I'm just saying. So case number 3 happened. I lost count. I'm not sure if it is case number 3. So again, wooden Kudo is left there in the dust while Hotaro is in the middle of 2 Juliets. We move to Midoro Sensei. He returns to the alchemy classroom, and he's surprised to see Weird Sister number 2 with the professor. And he's like, "Oh, I didn't expect you to be here." And Kyoka tells Minato Sensei, like, "Look, she has nowhere else to go. Like, I took her in. She's going to be my assistant from now on. So, yeah, she's doing something." And Minato Sensei thanks number 2 for what happened. Because if you remember, number 2 was responsible for sending Minato Sensei to that realm. And he thanks her for that because of you, I was able to fight alongside my students. And then number 2 thanks Minato Sensei, thank you for defeating the master, because if the master was alive, then I'd pretty much be on the run and probably dead. So thank you. And then after, the exchange of thank yous, Weird Sister number 3 just literally crashes the party because she bursts out from the rooftop and she does that Superman thing. So, like, she does the Superman thing where she just just went straight forward from the roof down to the classroom. And we don't see any rocks, so obviously, nothing is broken because everything is digital. There's no realism. But anyways, Weird Sister number 3 does the Superman, and she is begging number 2 to return home. Like, you can tell that number 3 really does care about her, and she wants her back. But number 2 made an excellent case. Like, look, I'm scared to death. Like, the master may be gone, but number 1, who's been played by a 9-year-old, made it perfectly clear that the moment they cross paths, she is dead. So she is scared for her life. But number 3 was like, she's gonna forgive you. Don't worry about it. I'll be there, and everything is gonna work out. Just come back home. But number 2 is like, look, I get it, but I can't take that risk. I mean, makes sense, right? I feel for her. Like, I'm sure she does want to come back, but the fear of getting killed is just too great. Like, no, I'm sorry. I'm not coming back. I'm sorry. And then number 3 turned her rage to Minato Sensei and Kyoka, assuming that they had something to do with, number 2 not coming back. And then she transforms into Dread Type 3, and she was about to take her anger upon them. But then here comes Spanner, who shoots at number 3, and he's like, look, I don't care about you freaks, disagreements, whatever, but if you try to attack my mentors, then I have to intervene. So we will get that freaks thing a little bit later. So Spanner transforms, and they get transported to the parking lot. I'm like, wait a minute, the academy has a parking lot? Like, why? There's hardly any teachers. The kids are they don't have licenses. So why do you have a parking lot when Minato Sensei is the only teacher? You could have Kyoka. I'm sure she has a car, but I'm like, what the hell? I'm just saying. I'm nitpicking, I know, but I'm just saying. So the fight takes place at a deserted parking lot, and you can tell that Spanner, I don't know what's up with you and Dread, because apparently Dread is your kryptonite, because every single time you end up fighting someone who bores the Dread driver, the suit, whatever, you end up getting your ass kicked. What the hell? I'm just saying. And you just recently, it wasn't that long ago that you got your Kamen Rider form, something that you craved for, and yet you still get your ass whipped. I'm just saying. But so they get their fight on, and again, I can't give enough praise to the suit actors, especially whoever wears the dread suit. You are great. The stunts here, it made the fight even greater, because it told a story, and I really enjoy that fight for what it was. I can't give enough praise to the suit actors. Anyways, so Spanner's kryptonite is dread. Number 3 is kicking his ass, but then all of a sudden the suit malfunctions, giving Spanner the opening that he needed. And Minato explains that being dread is a burden, and it really takes a kick out of, the person's spirit, will, whatever, especially when it's its type 3 form. And I'm like, wait a minute, Minato sensei. So where was your burden when you became dread? Where was the sisters' burden when they became dread? And where was the burden when the master became dread? Because remember the side effects. Remember when Sabi became the first dread? The actor effects. He looked like he was about to die. He looked like he hasn't eaten or drank since I don't know how many days. Like, he looked like he is about to die. But when you have people like Minato, the master, and the sisters who had the opportunity to become dread, there was no after effects. There was no side effects of what happened with Sabi. So why bring it up now? Like, I think the writers just added a rule and they decided to ignore it. They're like, no, we solved it off screen. There's no side effects anymore. No, don't worry about it. And yet they brought it up now. I'm like, really? Okay, fine. So Minato Sensei is telling everybody it's a burden to become dread because it's stressful. And then we have more fighting. And at last, finally, after how many episodes since Dread debuted and Spanner's Rider debut, Spanner finally has his first victory over Dread. Finally. And then you see number 3, Demorph, and she is cornered. Spanner is about to shoot to finish the job, and then number 2 comes in between them, and she says, look, I don't like that you are calling us freaks. It hurts my feelings just a tad. And then Spanner, like, he didn't just, like, he's still at shooting range, right? He didn't put his gun down, and she's like, look, either you step aside or you will die along with her. And then Kyoka just looks at Minato like, you need to stop this right now. So Minato does this smoke screen with that ring of his, and all the good guys disappear, leaving poor number 3 still on the floor, crying, wailing, screaming in an empty parking lot. She's in pain, guys. She wants her sister back. But at this point, I mean, I can't blame number 2, because right now number 1 is hell-bent on seeking revenge, and the last thing you want is to bring back number 2 and be like, I'm not going to forgive you. I'm just going to kill you. And I don't think number 3 will be able to stop her own sister from killing her other sister. I just don't see it. She will try to, but she will fail. So we move to the restaurant scene where apparently Hotaro is asking Renge and Sabi, like, hey, can you help us with this show? And can you help us? And they both like, we're not high schoolers. No, it's impossible. And of course, Kudo went out of her way to ask Miroto Sensei, hey, can we bring Sabi and Renge in to help us with this? And Miroto Sensei, yeah, you have my permission. So so when Kudo hands them over the scripts, right, they both look at each other and like, oh, that's quick. I guess. So that's funny. Like, they went out of the way to ask for permission, and Sabi and Renge was like, yeah, wow, that was super quick. So they're gonna help out, with the show, and they both don't know what Romeo and Juliet is, the Shakespearean play, and this is where Miku steps in and gives them, an overview of what the story is about, which leaves them all sad and all. And then we get Mama-san. I actually thought Mama-san was on the other side of town, but no, Mama-san just shows up with drinks in hand, and she is happy that her beloved son has the lead role, and she is not concerned, but she's like, can you handle memorizing all those lines? And Hoto's like shaking his head, like, I'm not sure, I'm new at this, but I gotta try. And Mama-san assumed that Kudo is also part of the show and assumes that she is Juliet, and Kudo is giving this awkward moment like, I'm not Juliet. But before she even got a chance to say anything, right? Again, Senna just shows up at the right place at the right time, and she's like, no, I'm Juliet. I'm Juliet. And then Mama-san barely recognized her until, Senna points out that, hey, I'm Senna. You remember me when I was a little girl? I was playing with Hotaro and all that stuff. And Mama's like, oh my God, you're grown up. Like, what's going on? Tell me everything. And they're just reminiscing a little bit. And then you hear Senna telling Mama-san, do you remember that you promised me Hotaro that, I will be his wife, that sort of thing? And then Hotaro, being in an awkward position, was like, hey, that's when we were kids. Calm down, okay? Just calm down. Which, again, this is case number 4. Kudo is not reacting to that until, we get further into the scene where we get to see Senna saying to Hotaro, hey, I'm looking forward with, the rehearsals. We should start the kissing scene right away. And of course, Hotaro's like, kissing scene? And it leads to Renge, which she gives out this scary aura feel. And she's like, okay, this girl is a threat. Because Renge was like, if I was in love with Treasure Boy, then she will consider to be my rival, and it will be very difficult to overcome her. And then you have Hopper 1 just coming out with the scared look, and then Sabi having the moment where, hey, these two, could be a match made in heaven, and then everything is slowed down. Kudo is just like standing there yet again, as if like she's the elephant in the room. Time stop. Well, not necessarily stop, but just time goes very slowly. You hear echoes to the point where you see Kudo just, one of her hands just turn into a fist, and then you can tell like, oh, she is bothered, but her face is not giving that reaction. But instead, after the fisting, she decides that, hey, I need to go somewhere, and she just runs off. And Hotaro's like, what? Kudo? Where are you going? Where are you going? That's the only emotional thing I got from her. Just the fist thing and her getting bothered, and she leaves. Yeah. We move on to the next scene where Weird Sister number 1, who has been played by a 9-year-old, creates the Melgime. And then we move on to the next scene where Kudo is down on the dumps swinging. She is sad, and you see her holding her heart. So she's like, what's up with these feelings that I have? And then, oh God, Senna, right place at the right time, shows up at the very same park. I swear, she's some kind of stalker. Anyways, she comes in and point blank asks, like, are you and Hotaro dating? Because I noticed that you two wear the same rings, only with different colors. So, are you guys dating? And then Kudo was like, no, it's not that way. We're just co-workers. We're just students. We're not actually dating. And it gives Senna a relief because she's like, look, thank you for telling me this, because it would have been so awkward, because I have the hots for Hotaro. I have been for a long time. And, I have a chance with him now that things are cleared up. And so, yeah, it would have been very awkward. But then, of course, Kudo is lying to herself. She doesn't understand her feelings right now. But then, lo and behold, Weird Sister number 1, who's been played by a 9-year-old, shows up with her new Melgime. And she is, as usual, throwing like, verbal abuse towards Kudo, same as usual. And then Kudo tells Senna to run away. But then number 1 decides to capture her. And then she goes up to her and telling her, hey, she told me to tell you that you are in her way. Which gave Senna the incentive that this whole thing was planned out. And she turns around, chained up, mind you, and she's like, I knew you were lying. I knew you have feelings for Hotaro. And Kudo's like, no, she is lying. This child is lying. And Senna, refusing to listen, just says, I hate you. And this is where the words I hate you really affected Kudo by the end of this episode. And after that, the Melgime freezes Senna, which, by the way, by the end of the freezing, instead of giving the face of fear, Senna's giving the face of anger. Scary anger. It was just so... wow. Like, if you were going to be frozen to death, you'd be like, my last look will be giving that angry, scary face towards my hated rival, Kudo. All right. So now Senna's frozen, and then the sister and the Melgime decides to go after Kudo. She transforms, but obviously her head is not on straight because Senna's words affected her. We get flashbacks of her being jealous, which, again, after how many cases I've pointed out, she never gave this vibe of jealousy whatsoever, except the wooden face, her being sad, and just her, with the fists and running away. And overall, her being the elephant in the room. I'm just saying. So, all those things are affecting her in a negative way, causing her to really get beat up. And then luckily, Hotaro steps in. He becomes platinum, and it became a 2-on-1 match. But even with Hotaro, Kudo was not in fighting mode right now. She wasn't. And Hotaro's like, what's wrong? Like, what's going on here? But she gets easily beaten up. She demorphs. Then Hotaro gets frozen halfway. And the episode ends with more verbal abuse from Weird Sister number 1, who's been played by a 9-year-old. Like, everything that just happened just now, the girl freezing to death, and Hotaro, halfway frozen, that's all on you. Everything is your fault, which immediately causes Kudo to fall into despair. And yeah, that's the end of the episode. Oh man, like I mentioned earlier, this episode and the episode that comes after is devoted to Kudo and just seeing if there's going to be sprouts in the eventual Kudo and Hotaro relationship. And it's just, I wasn't feeling Kudo in this episode at all. I wasn't feeling it. I didn't get the sense of her getting bothered or getting jealous, anything like that. All I got was elephant in the room, sad, runs away. That's it. And of course the wooden face. No nervous laugh, no look of like being bothered or the look of jealousy. Renge and Sae were giving those vibes, and of course overly atop Hotaro. Even Kaijiki was giving emotions, but not Kudo. To me, she's just wood. She is wood. And I don't want to compare her to Brie Larson. I don't. Because I'm sure the actress is new. She is green compared to Brie Larson, who she's been doing movies for years. And yes, she is wood too. But yeah. But we get a revelation, which I almost forgot to say, that apparently the master is the father of Weird Sister number 1. So number 1 wants revenge for her papa, and it led Kudo to be like, huh? Grayon is your father? Say what? And then she falls into despair once again. Yep. But, it's just, we all know what this is. And let's see if the next episode she gets better. But if she's going to become wooden again, it's just, it's bad. But hey, I think you need to give her like ghosts and demons to make her have emotion again. I'm just saying, but anyways, I don't want to keep blabbing, but what do you guys think? Have you seen the episode? And if so, what's your thoughts? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? And what would you change if you didn't like it? I have my notes in front of me, but I may have missed a couple of things here and there. Also, I want to add this too. Spanner is going to do a lot of character development, because if the writers are going to pull the whole number 2 and Spanner relationship, it's already awkward as it is, because he pretty much calls her a freak for her, but eventually he's gonna change. But right now, I'm sure the reason for that is just to build awkwardness and just be like, because he's still hateful towards the sisters and the master, which makes sense, right? Because they're the ones who cause a lot of harm towards him and his family and his friends. So I understand the anger where it comes from. But eventually, he will have feelings towards her, and I'm sure he's going to apologize and that sort of thing. But right now, I think it's meant to cause friction and awkwardness between the two. If the writers were to decide to push the relationship, which is not there yet, but we still have 10 episodes more to go to hit episode 40. So we hit that hump. So we're going, down the roller coaster. So anyways, thank you so much for listening. Give a like if you like it, and please subscribe. And one last thing. I saw the trailer for the Legend one in this mega form, final form, and it looks bulky as hell. And I'm like, how would a suit actor be able to fight with this circle necklace? It looks very bothersome. I'm sure the person who wears the suit is having trouble, turning the head around. Man, this is gonna be oof. Yeah, but I'm not watching that. I'm not interested in Legend anyways. To me, this is just the Kudo and the End 2.0, and it's not for me. Unless you guys want me to review it. If you guys want me to review it, I'll do it. But other than that, I'm not. Because I'm not interested in Legend and his legendary grapefruits. Anyways, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you all on the other side of Oblivion. Johnny!